Ahoy! Captain Benzie here, coming at you with an intel report. This series looks at each of the units in Command & Conquer Rivals the same way a dog looks at the door when the postman comes, with a deep and desperate desire to understand how this works so that the bloodshed can begin. If you enjoy this video or find it useful, slapping like tells YouTube that I'm popular and to send more people my way. It's majorly helpful to me. Subscribing and ringing the notification bell will make sure that you're the first to know when a new video goes live. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below or on the Gaming Galleon Discord, where we talk about C&C Rivals and about 11 bajillion other games, mobile or otherwise. That's totally a real number, by the way. Finally, if you want to be godly awesome and help support this channel, you can do so via Patreon. It's about time that we went back over some of the older Intel Report videos, as my content has grown and improved significantly since those were first made, and it's time to update them, I think. Let me know in the comments below or on the Discord which Intel Report video you would like to see me redo next. So today we're looking, again, at the Nod Banshee. The Banshee is Nod's primary multi-role fighter aircraft. Based on screen technology and utilising exotic plasma cannons, the Banshee is a capable weapons platform against both aircraft and ground vehicles. As a fast-moving aircraft built from the Nod Air Tower, the Banshee is a vicious and aggressive hunter, able to swiftly swoop across the battlefield to engage its prey. The Banshee's high rate of fire can rapidly wreck tanks and other units like the MLRS that would be tricky for your ground units to deal with. This is one of the Banshee's most powerful uses, that ability to sweep past blocking units being safe from return fire and to remove their prey quickly and efficiently. That said, one-on-one, they will beat out a pit bull or attack bikes. Now, of course, there's more to Banshees than just destroying ground units. Unlike the GDI Mohawk, which fulfills a similar role, the Banshee can also target air units. Firstly, this makes them a fantastic option for dealing with enemy aircraft, and they're capable of taking down even the heavier air units like the Orca bomber. With their rate of fire, Banshees are one of the better counters to vehicle squads like drone swarms, laser drones, war dogs, and cyber wheels. They'll deal with other anti-air aircraft too, but will usually need numbers to deal with anything more threatening than Talons. So how do you deal with Banshees if your opponent is running them, as their mix of anti-vehicle and anti-aircraft firepower can make them dangerous to most of their usual counters? Well, Phantoms and Hammerheads are a good start, able to take out a Banshee very quickly, but they will take some return fire in most situations. Stealth tanks are another dedicated AA option that will one-shot a Banshee at equal levels quite quickly. If you don't have dedicated anti-air like this, you will need numbers. 2 Talons, 2 Pit Bulls, or 2 attack bikes. Those will all do the job quickly and fairly cost-effectively. But for the most cost-effective answer, you need to look no further than the humble missile and laser squads. These guys do considerable damage to Banshees, and the Banshee does almost nothing in return. That said, the major downside to this counter is, of course, that the Banshee can outmaneuver infantry quite easily due to its speed. If you can get the lasers or missiles into an awkward position for the Banshee though, they do an astonishing amount of damage as it flies past. Banshees are an early unlock for the Brotherhood of Nod, and thus fit into many different Nod decks due to their versatility. If you need something that can effectively deal with both ground and air vehicles, the Banshee will always be a good option. That said, let's have a look at 2 decks that showcase and utilise the Banshee well. Now, this first deck is one of the most commonly used whilst climbing the ladder with Nod. It's the standard Nod Aggro 222. It's a full-on aggro deck that dominates the early and mid portions of the game. The deck usually opens with laser squads as your scouting unit. Scout them in a way that covers the most direct route to your harvester. This way, any enemy vehicle rush can be intercepted and swiftly dealt with. The Flame Troopers are here to deal with infantry threats and will protect your vehicles from enemy missile squads, grenadiers and the like. Being squad infantry, they're also very resilient against anti-vehicle firepower and will hold ground for a very long time against units like tanks, even if they do almost nothing in return damage. Once it becomes apparent that the units you have in the Hand of Nod are insufficient for what your opponent is sending out, you can look to either the War Factory or the Air Tower. Now, the War Factory contains attack bikes for dealing with early light vehicles like war dogs, pit bulls, etc., but also early air threats, be these drones or Talons and the like. Later in the game, attack bikes can still take out a heavier air like Mohawks, Orca bombers and even Kodiaks, but you may need to send in 2 at once. We also have Scorpion tanks for ground-based vehicle hunting. Scorpions can quickly reposition to where they're needed and pummel enemy vehicles dangerously quickly, and with Raider, they can do that while keeping mobile. Scorpions will, however, struggle against units like the Predator tank and MLRS, but this is where your Air Tower and Banshees come in. Now, in the Air Tower, first of all, we have Venoms. These will shred through almost all enemy infantry very quickly and will dominate the early game if carefully used. They'll need to avoid attack bikes, pitbulls and talons, of course, while they do their job. Banshees, though, can be used to keep those units at bay. However, and they're here to deal with the ground units that the Scorpion struggles against. Now, you can swap out Venoms for Cyberwheels, and then you'll have a deck that sees a lot of play at the very top of the ladder, but can be a little trickier to use for newer players. Very much entirely up to you. Now, for a commander here, I personally prefer Seth or Oksana for this deck. Seth will allow you to drill pod up to a distant pad to contest it at the last moment, and you can use the flame troopers inside as an excellent distraction, or a way to support your other units. Oksana, of course, can use her fanaticism buff to shift the battle into her favour. Now, this is an aggro deck, and as such will struggle in the late game against dedicated tech units. As such, you'll need to keep the pressure on and dominate that early game. Keep the pads charging at all times. Seriously, never let them turn grey or yellow, even if this means that you need to step off them for the time being until you can retake the pads with overwhelming force. With the pads charging, harass your opponent's economy, use laser squads, attack bikes, Scorpions and Banshees to pester their harvesters and make your opponent spend Tiberium to deal with those threats. It's not about destroying the harvesters, it's about making your opponent spend money to deal with it. So make those attacks awkward. Do this right and you should only have 1 or 2 tech units to worry about before you launch the second nuke directly into their face. So then all you'll need to do is block those tech units on the pads briefly. You'll need to play aggressively, but hey, that's why they call it an aggro deck, and this is a playstyle that is well suited to the Brotherhood. Now, this second deck is a Jade... The second deck is the Jade Chem variant that I mentioned in the Chemical Warriors Intel report. Understanding how Chemical Warriors interact with Jade is vital to utilising this deck, so I would strongly recommend checking out that video. I've popped a link on screen now, so click that and it'll take you through. This deck uses militants for scouting before you send out a harvester. Laser troopers are here to deal with early rushes and vehicle pressure, and then the Chemical Warriors hold pads and start spreading those clouds. Late in the game, the Chemical Warriors and Catalyst Missile are capable of handling most tech units. Laser drones are great for dealing with stuck-in ground units like the MLRS or tanks, especially early in the game. Venoms are our fast-moving anti-infantry option. Banshees are our anti-aircraft option in this deck. Now, you can swap in Phantoms, but I find them a bit expensive, making it harder to use the Catalyst Missile right when you need it. Also, Banshees help deal with pitbulls and similar, and give an anti-vehicle punch if you can't set up that ideal situation of having 2 laser drone units, which is cheaper than a Banshee and will destroy most ground units faster, but is significantly more fragile and requires 2 population cap and 2 hexes next to your target. Yeah. Now, I ran this deck for a long time on ladder, and even Bike Rush Owns himself was noted for using it for a while after the laser drone's release, climbing to the #1 slot for LOD. In fairness, the laser drones have actually been considerably buffed since then as well, making this deck just that little bit more powerful. So now we reach the part of each Intel Report video where I feature a replay of one of these decks and break down what's going on to showcase the deck and the unit in a kind of live fire exercise, I suppose. So let's jump right in. So on the left we have Blade, or 13 Laddie as some people like to call him for some unknown reason, running a variant of the Nod deck, the Cyberwheels variant that I mentioned. On the right, Shukit is running a 222 GDI deck with pitbulls and APCs, and drone swarms and orcas. Now, straight out of the gate here, you can see that both of them go with harvesters. Blade then swiftly moves into Cyberwheels, which he sends off scouting. Unfortunately for Shukit, his scouting unit of riflemen is hard countered by those wheels, so he immediately builds a missile squad and sends those in. Blade has spotted this, knows that Cyberwheels are going to struggle to deal with that, and thus sends out some riflemen. Unfortunately, this means that of the 3 units on the battlefield for Blade, none of them can deal with the drone swarm unit that's out. That said, by opening with Cyberwheels, the War Factory is already open, and thus attack bikes are readily available. Unfortunately, he does have to drive those attack bikes past a missile squad, which deals some hefty damage, and then out comes an Orca on the prowl. Now, an Orca is going to be very difficult to deal with for attack bikes, just because it's going to obliterate them in one shot. This is where the Banshee comes in, and that Banshee suddenly can go on the hunt and really pressurize that Orca into taking a safe distance. With no better target, the Banshee quickly kills off that drone squad, deals some hefty damage to the Pitbull, but ultimately falls to the Pitbull and the missile squad. Both pads, oh, and it goes yellow, and oh, yikes. Blade manages to just about sneak that Pitbull down, dealing enough damage to take it out quickly, turning the pads red and launching that first nuke. Now here we've got that Orca supported by a Pitbull moving north on the prowl. Hopefully Blade has noticed this and is swooping in with his Banshee. That Banshee on its own is probably going to struggle to deal with both of these units, but a laser squad quickly finishes off that Pitbull. The Banshee then chases after the Orca, doesn't quite manage to kill it off in time, and needs to retreat to safety to get away from that Pitbull. The laser squad is going to do enough though. The Pitbull at the south takes one hit and then nukes out that Banshee. Now the Scorpion at the top can't quite kill the Pitbull in time to save the Harvester, but then moves south to take through. Unfortunately, the Orca is still on the prowl, and that is going to be a problem for a Scorpion tank, so the Banshee and the Laser Squad both deal with the Orca and the APCs. A quick drill pod, beautifully timed there, allows Blade to swoop in, and with some flame troopers, to deal with the missile troopers that would otherwise be inside that APC. Got 2 pads to Blade, things are closing down, can he? Oh no! Yes! Shook it, looks like he's about to launch it, but Blade sneaks that Banshee onto the right-hand platform, claims it, clears off the middle platform, so it's 2 yellow, 1 red. Blade launches the second missile, good game. There is a reason this guy is number 2 on the ladder.